counseling and therapy, we talk about good emotions and we talk about bad emotions, because you can't get to safe, you can't get to healthy without understanding and acknowledging both of them. You have to know what they feel like in your body. You have to be able to identify them in your mind as, okay, I'm angry, what is it, right? Then this is where we mess up. We have to know how to communicate that emotion. So now I'm working with adults on how they express their emotions. And so before we even get to them expressing and talking to people, we have to teach them how to set boundaries for themselves. Here's our circle, right? Here we are in the middle. We help. This you, this me, this whoever want to be. Okay? This is our boundary circle. The reason why we teach adults this first is you can't communicate nothing because you don't even know what's healthy for yourself. So we first create fences or boundaries around things so people can understand what makes them uncomfortable, what makes them happy, what makes them sad, how they can socialize, how they interact relationally. We set boundaries. What are boundaries? Okay, well, pick up your journal and start to write out the parts of you on how you feel God looks at you, which is your identity, and the parts that how you look at yourself. Their perception of themselves is based on the people around them. That's all that it has been so consistent in. And so when they get in this space and they actually think about, okay, how does God identify me? And then how do I identify myself? And they bring it together and they go, well, I want the God one. Because he sees me as enough. He sees me as worthy. I want that. I don't want how they perceive me. So then I can regulate your emotions, because now you realize we don't care what other people say. What we tell kids, red or blue, and how do I get through? But people also got to choose to want to do the work, though, Jazz. That's the other piece. You want your identity. You don't want to do the work. You don't want to show up, but you want God to speak to you in your prayer time. I'm sorry. I'm going to be the counselor to tell you that's not going to help. And then the other way, I guess I assumed that people understood that part of helping your identity, go to a counselor. Guess what we're going to do? What I just said, walk you from in utero when you was in your baby's belly, and we're going to walk you all the way to how old you are. And then we're going to create boundaries. We're going to identify your attachment styles. We're going to talk about what seems like your identity and one of the people you name from 0 to 30, whatever. And then we're going to help you regulate those emotions and start to forgive yourself.
Wow. Wow.
So that way, when you out here moving in this world, people can see you, not just see the light of Jesus, but see your healthiness, see your secure attachment, your leveled brain, and now you can have better relationships.
Correct. Because what happens when you fix yourself, it goes back to that saying, sometimes you're the only Bible people will ever read, right? So it takes you to be as healthy as you could possibly be so that you can impose healthiness on other people around you. And it may start with just the people around you, like your closest friends or your family members that are immediate family members. They can see your progress, and then that may incite change for them. And then all the people surrounding them that are at their workplace or at their schools start to notice some of the characteristics and start to want to pick those up. So it really does start with changing you before you start changing anybody.
Get into other things. Because in marriage, if you don't have an identity, you gonna be lost. It will probably lead to divorce.
Girl,
So
you can capture a real man if you don't have a real sense of self. If you can't capture somebody who is even awakened in that way. Because a lot of people have perceptions of men in general, like, oh, men are cheaters, oh, men, can't be trusted. But the reality is, your lens is foggy. Your lens is dusty. And people that are attracted to you while you have no identity are going to be other people with no identity. So who you're judging is everybody else who does not have a sense of who they're. And here's the thing, it comes across as confidence or cockiness or arrogance to other people. But in reality, they really don't know who they are. They just know how to protect themselves and appear to be as if they know who they are.
Yeah,
But
that's red. They in red. They don't even know they in red because they've been red their whole life. They've been
because
in flight or flight, right side, their whole life.
and they approach relationships like, oh, everybody's disposable. But the reality is they're fearful that if somebody finds out who I really am, I'm going to be exposed. And if I'm exposed, they're not going to like me. They're not going to like who I truly am. So if that's the case, then it goes right back to the very first thing you said. You're not being honest, vulnerable, and transparent with yourself. So when other people see you for who you are, you're not willing to be honest about that. And you can't have a viable relationship if that's the case. Because here's the thing, relationships require different versions of you to be exposed. You're not, if you're vulnerable, at the bare minimum, the version of you now is not comfortable with other people, then naturally you're not going to long-term relationships because you don't understand the impact that environment or exposure or awareness brings to an individual's identity. You don't understand that impact. Therefore, you won't understand somebody else's impact if they go and they make changes and they address themselves and they are honest with themselves. They're vulnerable and they're transparent. If they go do those things, you either won't understand them or you'll blame them for making you feel attacked or making you feel like you are less than. When in actuality,
No one would even want to call you less than. We just wanted you to face the pain and hurt and fear that you're going through.
exactly. It's not even the feelings that you're feeling behind the way other people are making you feel are not honest feelings.
And I want people to know, whoever watches this franchise, those feelings are okay. Those feelings are welcomed. They are real and they are okay to have. It's okay to be fearful. It's okay to be scared. It's okay to be in pain, right? Those are human feel that it if there's a person in this world that is telling you that I ain't never been like that, they lying. Mm-hmm. God created community. You're attracted to that community because y'all all going through the same thing, but none of y'all say nothing, but y'all act the same. So y'all like each other.
It takes that because what you're describing is families. And that's how families and generational trauma become about. Because what happens is you're surrounded by a lot of people who all have the same level of unhealthiness. And so the minute you are exposed to somebody who is healthy, you don't know how to act to it. So you just react, right? And what happens is you can't quite pinpoint what it is that made you react that way. So instead of you growing silent and paying attention to what you felt or what your mind led you to think after you've been exposed to that thing, it just feels so much better to blame other people and just cut them off. And we're in this cancel culture where if you don't make me feel good, I remove you. Yeah. But back to that, because you mentioned good emotions and bad emotions. And I know for some people that flagged that good emotions is happiness and excitement, but bad emotions is grief and sadness and anger. But the reality is you can make excellent decisions with You can make excellent decisions in the midst of anger or sadness. And you can make poor decisions in the midst of your happiness.
Because when you identify that emotion, where it's at in your body and why it's in my mind, now I can regulate my decision making to where I take ownership and accountability because my emotions was high. Do you know how many people cannot do that?
Well, because what happens is that it impacts their pride, which is who they think they are. And so what happens is they've now attached their identity to their to the tangibility, right? To the things that they can touch. So now you've got a poor understanding of who you are because you've attached it to what you have.
That is our generation in a nutshell. I hope y'all were listening.
I can't even say it's our generation. I think it's our era.
Our era, our era of people who are alive. Yeah, that
All,
no,
all ages at this
all
point.
ages, all ranges. I agree. That's the era we live in.
That's it. In that journal every day, they're writing down, you've told them to write the traumas, you've told them to write down
Maybe start
their
day to day. Write down your day to day.
okay.
Write down your day to day. Write down, rate yourself emotionally. Go get it. Rate your skill. I call it the chicken scale. You do 1 as your stress level or 10 as your happy level, or you can switch it around. At the end of the week, review it. You can even just pick it up because something happened that day, and you realize, because now that you're writing down everything, it allows your left brain to make logic of the emotions of what you're seeing on your right, on the right side of your brain. So what reason why journaling is so powerful is because now my feelings are organized on logic on paper. So when I go read it, now I'm starting the left and right safety to get me to the green balance place. That's what I'm doing. Let me tell you, that's the third step. You sitting in those emotions. Because you gotta read, you reading what you feeling, you reading what you wrote. It's gonna take a minute. It's you didn't get this way over 1 week. This is 30, y'all 30 years, y'all 40 years, 60 years in pain. So it's gonna take some time. Now, God, if you bring God in it, he cut that bad boy in about a quarter. Do all things. He could do all things. He always getting ready. Oh, you can do all things. Okay. The power that we've been giving to have authority over these emotions, over these thoughts. Am I red? Am I angry all day? Am I always on the fence? Am I high anxiety? Am I high excitement because I'm compensating for internal feelings of blue, of sad, depression? Or am I pretty balanced? And when you say that you're balanced and you're green, this needs to be that day I made sound decisions not based on emotion.
Wow. What happens is you pay attention to what you're feeling. And sometimes before you get a feeling, you feel it in your body. And so in your body, your stomach may turn, or your head may hurt, or you'll start to feel hot somewhere in your chest. It can make you squeeze. It can make you clench your jaw. And then when you start to feel that emotion, you can now say, okay, I felt this before. I'm about to get angry. So let me think, let me breathe. Let me get that oxygen in my brain so I can start to regulate what's going on right now so that I can get out in front of it, because I'm understanding that feelings and emotions are so temporary that you can make a decision in the middle of the feeling that can really impact you long term. And because the both of us have an understanding that we have an intent for long-term relationship, you have to be able to do the individual work to protect potential.
Do y'all know Jesus was regulating? Because he knew he had to go lay his life down on the cross. That was his life. So it took him 40 days to regulate those emotions. And actually, that helped, because then when he got on the cross, he felt those same emotions when he was like this. And he said, Lord, get me down. And then in that same breath, he said, but I will not be finished with my purpose if I don't.
Also still connects with one of my other speakers. He fed his body what he needed, and only what he needed and none of what he desired, so that he could keep his emotions regulated in such a way that he decided to ignore his emotional side of reasoning, because he knew that his emotions were already up here. So in order to bring your logic up there, you can't continue to feed, how you say, the red. You can't continue to feed that. God has so many other, leeways to putting a band-aid over his feelings, right? He has so many other opportunities to massage himself down.
Yes.
So when we're, in closing, creating and maintaining your new and overdue identity, it looks like making sure you take the time out to write and journal your traumas, journal your accomplishments, the moments that you did regulate, the way that your body feels, and take the time out to write those things out. When you do that and you're honest, transparent, and vulnerable, and you're able to see how you really feel about things, what your real perception of them is, and the better you understand your emotions and your mind and your spirit, the better you can attune to your identity.
Period.
And then from there,
and make sure you reread it. So don't just write it down and leave it, reread it, because that's what's how you get to the regulation. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Jess.
And so in doing that, you end up finding yourself, but along the way, your antenna becomes, the signal of your antenna gets a little bit stronger. And when I say antenna, I mean the messages that you receive from your inner knowing, or Christ or God or whomever it is that you receive your information from, the source. Your source is able to send you messages which can help you reveal the difference between a gift and a purpose. When people think about their identity, they don't really consider what God wants them to be. They just kind of consider what they want their life to look like, or how they want to be perceived by others. So thank you.
Your gifting can fund your purpose. And that's what Jazz is showing y'all.
Because what happens, I think that people don't realize that every step of your life, even though you may go through these trials and tribulations, what it really is your training for your purpose. So when you building all this skill and building up all of this awareness, what you're really and truly doing is preparing by like gathering the tools for your toolbox so that you can implement your purpose, right? Otherwise, people don't see it that way. Like my ability to speak well, like a lot of the trauma that I've been through has fueled this fire that I have in my energy that a lot of people read. But that fieriness is helpful in delivering my purpose. So 1,000% I'm okay with, because people think that they don't need trauma. Sometimes some of the trauma can teach you lessons, and you can remove the attachment to the trauma, but now you can retain the skill that you built from the trauma. It doesn't make you a different person. I think that's the biggest thing too, because people assume that, if I heal too much, and they're gonna make me soft, and I'm gonna go see a therapist, and they're gonna have me crying, so on and so forth. But in actuality, it magnifies you, because you're able to now separate the skill that you picked up from the origin of the training, or the training experience itself. You've added value. You've added extra notch on your belt or in your resume that says, look, I'm now capable of doing this because I've come from this, that, and the next thing. Because I've been through all these traumatic experiences, I'm now fueled and built and supported in such a way that I can push forward and now obtain my purpose. So now God can start raining these blessings down on me. Because if he didn't before, if he would have done it when I was weaker, when I thought I was strong, if he'd have done it then, it wouldn't have worked for his will. So it works out the way it's supposed to. And again, I appreciate you, girl. We can talk all day. We need to stop. We need to stop this.
Thank you. Girl,
carry on with your day.
Bye.